What?
Yeah,
Wait, why Saturday?
Saturday is a name I've had like toying around for a character for years. Like
I'm
we're
gonna
talking
stop you right there,
2017
Cheryl.
here.
That is a day, not a name.
Okay, but it
Cheryl,
would be a cool name.
rest in peace to the person who's named Monday.
I mean, Monday could also be a cool name, but
No, it's associated. Monday is associated with you going back to work on Mondays. Everyone fing hates
mm,
Mondays. So actually, if you
I mean,
do, if there is DLC,
Garfield.
you have to promise me. You have to fucking promise me that if you make a
Mm.
DLC for specifically Vivid Stasis and we introduce a character named Monday, that person needs to be depressed as or always pessimistic. Just so some people can officially say, I hate Monday. Canonically, we're not
No,
wrong.
incredible idea, incredible idea. You're so right for that.
Like,
I'll have to
instead,
write that down.
hi everyone, we're alive. Well, we're alive. Rini is dead right now. Michiko's
Top of
dead.
the
I'm the only
morning
one
to you,
that's...
laddies.
Yeah, 12:15 a.m. for me. Top of the morning.
So it is top of the morning.
It is literally top of the morning. Fucking, we're not dead. We're alive. We're
We're
fucking
alive.
alive. Oh my god, I'm so happy to be back. Anyway, hi everyone. Hopefully this episode gets out before Christmas. It probably won't.
You
Uh,
probably won't.
thanks, Michiko. But we are here today with a very special guest. Welcome back to the Corner Cab. I'm a little rusty, but that's okay.
It'd be
Today we
like
have
that.
a very special guest, a newcomer in the rhythm game scene, a developer who actually reached out to us so that we could talk about a new game that she's developing. That I'm actually pretty excited for. This is Cheryl, the developer of...
You gotta do like a zoom in. Like have the camera like zoomed in on your side of the table, and then it just like zooms out, and there's just like a million effects, like 3D spinning
It's
text.
just horns or whatever, a very cringe humor. But anyway, this is Cheryl, developer of Vivid Stasis,
Hello.
which is a is it VSRG?
It is
Vertical,
VSRG,
yeah,
yeah.
VSRG. Sorry, I was trying to think of the actual acronym again. Yeah, a VSRG, which actually I have been sort of into, and I'll talk about my stuff anyway. But actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Holy crap! I am out of practice.
I get this.
I get that.
I get this. And I have to practice every time I stream because I only stream like once in a blue moon. So every time I
Okay.
do it, I'm like, should I be professional about this? Should I not be professional about this?
Yeah.
Like what's the
Oh, shit.
methodology here?
Okay. Anyway, breathe, breathe. Oh, it's so dusty in this room. We haven't
Deep
used it in a
breaths.
while. Anyway, hi everyone. I am your host, Enemy. I am not joined by Rennie today, but I am joined by our very special guest, Cheryl, developer of Vivid Stasis. And we're going to be talking a lot about VSRGs today, and pretty much just the rhythm game community in general. Kind of catch up on what's been happening and everything. And yeah, actually, as someone who makes music, it's going to be interesting to talk specifically to a rhythm game developer from the composer's perspective. So composer on
Yeah.
developer talking. So I'm actually pretty
I mean, I'm
interested to
also
see
a
what...
composer, so we share in that.
Wait,
It's just
really?
yeah, I've been super off making original music in 2022 because I've been like so ham in programming and writing and doing all stuff in Vivid Stasis. But I do compose music. I've been composing music since
Excuse me.
2015.
Oh wow, I did not know that. Okay, well then that's interesting. Then we probably will relate on a lot of topics actually a lot easier then. But yeah, so Cheryl has developed Vivid Stages. She's also an avid rhythm game player. We've also both been kind of... actually, I don't think you're the person that I've been like... No, you're not the one. That's a different person on Twitter that I've been playing a lot of Paradigm Reboot with,
Mm.
which actually we can
I
talk
have
about.
been playing it though a lot
Oh,
since it
okay.
came out.
Yeah, but first let's wait on talking about that. But yeah, so Cheryl's here joining us for the development of Vivid Stasis, and I think Cheryl, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and introduce Vivid Stasis, the game, and tell people what it's all
Hello,
about.
hello, people watching. Whenever this goes up, whether it be I don't have a witty way to continue this. Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm I don't even know how to introduce myself. I don't introduce myself a lot. I work on Vivid Stasis as Enemy has described here.
Mhm.
I also do a lot of other things. I'm a self-taught musician. I do basic pixel art when necessary for my projects. I am a programmer. I'm the lead programmer on Vivid Stasis, as well as another project I'm working on the back burner that's unrelated to rhythm games. I've also dabbled in like writing in the past. Obviously, I'm the like scenario director for Vivid Stasis as well as the lead writer of pretty much every other project I've worked on.
Mhm.
Um,
She does a lot.
and yeah, I do a lot. So the term I usually just use is storyteller because that's at the end of the day what I do with everything. All the mediums I dabble in is I like telling stories,
Right.
and I just do it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so you do a lot, but Vivid Stasis seems to be kind of this magnum opus of yours, the big kahuna, the big project that you've been working on for quite a while now.
I'd say currently it is. Yeah, it's definitely the most I've ever like poured myself into a project. I started. I guess I could talk a bit about how Vivid State, like where Vivid Stasis
Yeah,
came
definitely
from.
definitely tell us about like how this all started. Especially
Yeah.
because it's definitely out of all the VSRGs probably one of the more unique one of the more unique visual VSRGs in that I don't think we have a single other rhythm game that is more so like do you consider sorry 16-bit right like
Yeah,
kind of
I'd say
16-bit
I'd say
ish.
it's like an accurate like
I was gonna say
descriptor.
8-bit but 8-bit's too crunchy. It's more so
I wouldn't even
16-bit.
say it's like 60-bit earlier because the effects we have going on, like especially with stuff like the menu backgrounds and stuff, is way far above what 16-bit stuff could produce. But you could just call it like you could just say like it's in that general style. It's like
Right.
that pixel art,
Mhm.
like indie game style.
Yeah, but it's definitely like one of those like very
Mm-hmm.
simple aesthetics that just kind of works. And
Mm-hmm.
I do not have much hands-on time with it, and we have an episode coming with more Vivid Stasis in the future. More on that another time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like how did this all start specifically? Because VSRGs, because
It's really
they're
funny with how like Vivid Stasis in specific started, but I'll get to that. You can go on.
I was just going to say because it's probably I would imagine it's a little hard to come up with the idea for like a good successful VSRG, especially considering, for example, Osumania is extremely dominant,
Mm-hmm.
as well as
Yeah,
you have
I have some
games like
things to say about Oceania, both good and bad, but
mhm,
it definitely inspired like the general like mania scene, like
mhm,
Postmania, Quaver, like Forky. It definitely inspired how I approach River Stasis in a lot of aspects, both in what I wanted to like tackle and what I wanted to sort of avoid. But the actual like general idea, like the reason, like the creation of the project Filing Game Maker Studio, like all of that, how all of that like fully began is it was like a random night in like spring of
mhm.
2021, like I want to say like March or April. And I was just like sitting in my room, and I was just like I don't even remember what I was doing. I was just randomly just like doing whatever. And I just thought to myself, I wonder how hard it would be to make a rhythm game engine that's more stable than Friday Night Funkin'. That is actually how the project file began. Because this was around like week seven for Funkin' hadn't been out at this point. And obviously week seven brought a lot of like stability improvements. But like before that, I had a lot of issues with like the general stability of that game's engine. I was just like, yeah, I wonder how long it would take for me to build one that was like more stable than that.
I am not gonna lie to you. I only until just now forgot Friday Night Funkin' existed.
I wish I
I
was you.
oh listen, I actually really appreciate a lot of the work that the modding community does, at least
Oh,
on
I
Friday
do
Night
too.
Funkin',
I
because
have
the
a lot
amount
of
of
friends that like
uh,
work with Funkin' mods, and I really love seeing the creativity that comes from it.
mhm. A
Um,
friend of mine, like Ardolph, is really well known in that scene, and
yeah,
plus
yeah,
like
I know Ardo is.
a lot of other like just really good projects go on in there. Some of high quality, some of not so high quality, but
I've seen some really cool stuff come from the Funkin' modding community, especially like ones I've seen like my friends and their friends work on. Like, there's a lot of really creative ideas in there.
mhm.
But like at the time, like there was no modding community. This was like when Funkin' was just like taking off for the very first time, and it was just like, okay.
Right,
I
but
have
you
some
were
gripes.
but
I
you
have
were
some gripes of this.
and these gripes led to specifically you going, what if I could make something that's better than Friday Night Funkin'? Like
Yeah, I
engine
didn't
wise.
even want to make something like unique. I just wanted to. I was just like, okay, how long would it take for me to make a four key, just a standard four key rhythm game engine that felt like it like was more stable than at the time Funkin' was. And
Uh,
the answer is it took me 3 nights. It was a full weekend's worth of work. And I was working in the evenings, but I did get the first prototype done within a few days.
Giving Friday Night
Um,
Funkin' giving Friday Night Funkin' like its credit where it's due. It wasn't programmed specifically to be a
oh
die-hard
yeah.
rhythm game. It was
Oh, of
basically just
course.
supposed
Yeah,
to be
no,
an
I
experience. And it's like,
uh-huh, yeah.
because I remember like trying to play it once and I was like, wow, the input is ass right
Oh,
now. However,
it was really bad.
but like again, it's not meant to be like you're getting perfects on all
Mhm,
charts. It was more so for the experience and for like a few other things. Like it just wasn't
mhm.
it wasn't
And I'm
necessarily
really glad,
100% focused on
and yeah,
something.
to give credit where credit's due, I'm really glad that the devs seem to have like even from just like the improvements that we did see in the week 7 update alone, you have like taken to heart that like people are like, oh, I see. So people like this for like the quirky like cartoony aspect of it, but also there are people that like the rhythm game aspect of it. So we are going to put in more to make sure that flows
Yeah.
like standard like reasonably well as well.
It was pretty cool.
Um,
Like I liked it a lot. It's
mhm,
I can't see myself playing it again. But
me neither.
um
I tried to go back to it like earlier this year, and I was just like, man, I don't think I really like this game.
but yeah, so Friday Night Funkin' specifically was
hmm
how you got into making the engine. You made it in about 3 days, and then afterwards you were just like, you know what, maybe I should just make a rhythm game.
Uh, yes and no. When I started obviously doing that, I actually had no idea what I was doing because I wasn't like a hugely confident programmer at the time. I
Mm,
actually only got as like huge into program. I mean, I've been messing with programming all my life. Obviously, it comes with the it comes with the status of like being a game developer at all. But
not me yet.
I only like got as huge into it as I did, like starting when I started doing Vivid Stasis, which is why so much of the early Vivid Stasis code is a horrendous mess. But I actually had no idea like where to start with that. So I actually shot a DM to Andrew Tsai, the producer, not the producer, the like director and programmer on Unbeatable. And I was like, hey, because obviously I've been friends with the Unbeatable devs for a really, really long time. They're super, super cool people. Um, and obviously I would go on to help out with that game, but this was before all that. So they were just friends, and I just shot Andrew a DM. I was like, hey, how do I make a rhythm game? And he basically helped me through like the basics of like how the engine should be like put together without like explicitly like doing it for me. And that was sort of the thing that got the groundwork running. And so the first
Right.
prototype was done after 3 days. It only had one song, which I can't name because I don't have the license to it. But it was just a test. It was
Very
just a
funny.
test thing, and it had 4 keys, and it actually had 2 additional lanes at the side. So the extra lanes weren't like overlaid over the thing like they are now. There was like 2 tiny lanes on the left and right side of the middle of the thing with the 4 lanes, and you would use the shift keys to hit them.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't fun. It was not fun at all. The chart I made for it flowed horribly. Um, it I swear it like I don't know if I can say it was that much more stable than Funkin was at the time, but it was that general experience that was like, okay, I've been really really enjoying rhythm games for about a year at this point because I actually got into rhythm games about like when the pandemic started.
Mhm.
Um, and I can talk about that in a bit, but to keep on topic, it's sort of like all right, I've been playing rhythm games, enjoying them for about a year at this point. Like I've been thinking for a little while about what it'd be like if I like made my own. Maybe I'm gonna mess around with this for a little bit. And so it became a kind of on and off like side project for a good little while, like a couple months. I would like add random songs, just any song I felt like, and just see if I could make a chart for it. And pretty early on, the gameplay changed pretty significantly, and it actually changed to something completely different than what it is now.
Yeah.
Basically, the way it would work is it was still 4 lanes, but there would be two note colors. There would be pink notes and there would be blue notes. And the lane background, like the
That sounds
background
awfully
behind the
familiar.
lane. Well, yeah, it would end up going on to inspire the general aesthetic, but like back then, like the background behind the notes was a solid color. It was either pink or blue, and you would have to press either shift key to change the color between pink and blue, and you could only hit notes of a certain color while the background was that color. So
Oh,
like
that's
you
a
would have
little
a section.
wonky.
Yeah, you would have like say a section like entirely with pink notes, and then it would transition into a stream of blue notes, and you have to quickly hit shift before then. And that was sort of how the game played for a while. And I still think there's like potential with that sort of gameplay style. The issue I ran into though is that it was basically just it would come down to just being 4-key charts, but at random points you would just have to press the shift key. And it didn't really feel like there was much of a way I could figure out to take full advantage of that kind of style of gameplay. So
I see.
I think after that, I just kind of let the project lay dormant for a while, going into like August because I was really busy with university at the time. Going into the fall, I got obviously, like I said, busy with university, and then I got really wrapped up in some personal life stuff that kind of took over for a little while. And then I was at a friend's house, and I was showing them. I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot I have vivid stasis still. Like it's like a thing here. Maybe I'll like crack open the project file for that and just like show them what was up with that, because I had mentioned it to them in the past. And I remember I needed to move it off of whatever drive I had it on to like a different hard drive for some reason. And I stored it in my C drive and I put it in a folder called "What the fuck am I doing anymore?" Just as like, because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna open this up and mess with it like a little bit, like see if I can still like boot the game, play it, like play the charts, and I could, and it was all fine and dandy. And I went home after that, and I was just like, damn, I kind of want to work on Vivid Stasis again because the name Vivid Stasis was decided very very early on. It was just kind of like a whatever name I came up with that I ended up really liking and keeping, and then eventually found a way to work into the story. But
You can probably tell it was made around the time of Sound Voltex Vivid Wave.
it actually was made like right around the time that Exceed Gear was just like coming out.
Right. But it was still like almost
Vivid
Vivid
was
Wave
the
era.
only one I had access to. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
we should probably
I started...
wait, hold on. We should probably cut out that part about you having access to Vivid Wave.
No, I mean it's not data. It's just the arcade I had didn't have Exceed Gear yet.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
I still get up. Hold on. Silence.
Yeah, probably
still probably gotta still.
God
damn it! I ruined it. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, but oh, that's cool. What was the? There was a follow-up point I was gonna have, but yeah, I have a folder of my own like project files, for example, when I'm making music that are specifically like actually my project names. I think I can get like some up like really fast without really disturbing the flow. I have some project names that are mixed in with a bunch of exported WAV files or MP3 files for like demos and so on to like send to like people that I go like, how does this sound or something like that. And like one I have is like, for example, happy but with eyes instead of Y. And
yeah, that's great. I love just naming shit, just random.
Yeah,
random
I think I had sometimes like anything that's an experiment, I'll name it a playground. I think I did there's a project file here that's called Oh God.
Yeah, I feel that. A lot of my like music project files are named that too.
There's random idea, pretty too. Sometimes I'll name shit and then I'll go like, oh fuck, I can't think of this at all. I've gotten now more into for some reason I've gotten like paranoid and secretive with my project files, so sometimes I'll just name them, for example, after like dates. Specifically, I'll use dates specifically of like when the project started. So like one of the songs that I think I finished that I can't talk about right now is like I think it's like October something 20. It's like October. Like I'll just put out a random date, like October 20th, 2022, and like that'll be so like 10/22/2022, and it'll be a random number, but no one will really know what that means.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or for some projects, I'll have a fake title to sort of like throw it off. Like I think, for example, for those who are here, it's now we live in a post -1 era now. When I did -1, I think it was called. At first, it was called Alternative. That was the like code name, and then after that, it became 0510 because it was May 10th when that project began, and then I think I finished it after that. I don't remember. There were just a bunch of them that like had completely different names, and then also because it was both like there were a bunch of like there are now like 6 project files for -1 alone for FL Studio. For
that's
for
I
either
feel that
no return on key sounding, but it was 2 attempts, and then also like I'm not gonna reveal that. No, fuck it. I'm working on an extend. I don't know when it'll be finished. It will be finished at some point. There you go, people. You're welcome. Anyway, moving on. I'm not the focus of this. Vivid Stasis is. The point is, project files. They're very funny. I like to name them some really stupid things, so I totally get that.
Yeah, and I just want to go on record and say that the project file for Vivid Stasis is to this day still stored in the folder. What the fuck am I even doing anymore? And like so much of like the remote or like my local like copy of the GitHub repository is like based on like file paths that I can't change at this point, and I think that's really funny.
So it's like really fucking. It's really like jank. That's funny. I gotta ask though. I personally. Oh, I should also clarify. It is a very big shame to the rest of the audience that we are not recording this on a Saturday, specifically for the sake of the main character of Vivid Stasis.
The funny.
What? Yeah, wait, why Saturday?
Saturday is a name I've had like toying around for a character for years. Like,
I'm gonna stop you right there, Cheryl. That is a day, not a name.
Okay, Cheryl. But it would be a cool name.
Rest in peace to the person whose name Monday.
I mean, Monday could also be a cool name.
No, but, it's associated. Monday is associated with you going back to work on Mondays. Everyone fucking hates Mondays. So actually, if you do, if there is DLC, you have to promise me. You have to fucking promise me that if you make a DLC for specifically Vivid Stasis and we introduce a character named Monday, that person needs to be depressed as fuck or always pessimistic. Just so some people, or it needs to be an asshole, so that we can officially say, I hate Monday. Canonically, we're not wrong.
Incredible idea. You're so right for that.
Like,
I'll have to write that down.
Like, it would just be a character, like, Monday instead would just be a character, for example, who actually is DLC. I know there's, like, a police investigator. Like, she would, like, let's call Monday a she, just for now, because that's all I can think of right now. Monday would show up on... So far. What was the name of the detective?
Eri Nichibotsu.
How can I shorten it?
Just say Eri.
Eri, thank you. It could show up to where Eri shows up, like, for an investigation, and Monday specifically, would walk in. Like, Monday would be the person to walk into the crime scene and legitimately touch everything for the purpose of fucking with Eri. Or
No, I'm pretty sure that's just something Saturday would do.
Saturday would go like, I don't know if I should do this. Monday would go, do it. Do it.
The devil on her shoulder.
With the hood, the Kermit with the hood. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
The devil and angel on Saturday's shoulder, Monday and Friday.
Call me up. I would love to write a song for Monday. If that actually becomes a character, I would love to do that.
Maybe if we like explore like less serious scenarios after the main story is like complete, then yeah, something. I would like to do that.
I would love for side story characters to be a thing in Vivid Stasis. But,
I want to do side stories a lot. The way we have it set up right now, it kind of is kind of going to have that, but you're gonna have to do all of them to eventually get the true ending. So it's more like they're like there's stories that split off from the main branch and aren't technically canon, but you do need to do them.
Now, this entire project is like for fun. Obviously, this is a non-profit project. People can pretty much play. Wait, people can you can, as we have been watching on Twitter for the past like 3 months, you can wishlist Vivid Stasis on Steam.
You can do that. You can indeed do that. Or you could be playing it if you are at some point watching this when it's out on Steam. You can also do that.
You should probably go try out Vivid Stasis, you know.
You should do that.
Yeah, but you should go wishlist Vivid Stasis.
You
Go
should do
wishlist
that.
it. Go play it. But also, so compared to a lot of VSRGs, in your own honest opinion, do you think that there was like, for example, at this point you're kind of like locked into what you have sort of made? I mean, especially with you basically saying it's 2.0, you're kind of locked into what you've done. Do you think specifically like compared to stuff like I mean, these are kind of unfair comparisons, but bear with me. Compared to something like Six Star Gate, which has been on the rise and has kind of taken its place alongside like DJ Max a little bit. Do you think you've done enough to sort of like diverse yourself among like VSRGs, especially for the sake of, I think one of the big things that I think Vivid Stasis has going for it is the fact that it's gonna actually have a VN type story. Like, I know Vivid Stasis not Vivid Stasis. I know Six Star Gate technically has a story. I actually don't know about DJ Max. I'm really sorry, DJ Max fans. I have not played DJ Max yet.
I don't think DJ Max has a story. I could be corrected on that. If I'm wrong on that, someone in the comments go and say, Cheryl, you are so fucking wrong about that.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, like, do you think, I guess, this is just a weird question, but in all honesty, do you think you yourself have done enough specifically to give Vivid Stasis its own separate creative identity? Or is there, like, more you feel like you can still do with it to, like, make it more standoutish or something like that?
So, I think for that aspect, if you were asking me, like, just in terms of the rhythm game part of it itself, I probably would say no, but I would also say I don't really care too much about doing that.
Right.
I think what gives Vivid Stasis more of its identity is obviously it's a rhythm game, but also you do have the story, like, and it's not like a story that's just kind of there for being a story in a rhythm game. It's definitely like, I would probably go as far as to say it's the main part of Vivid Stasis is the story we're trying to tell with it.
I think
obviously
a better way to phrase this question is, do you think that you wanted to aim for more so, I mean, you aimed for the story. The story is kind of, in at least from what I can tell, the story feels to be more of the main focus of this game. And the rhythm game is a medium to tell the story through. But
yes, I would definitely say that's accurate.
do you think you aimed more so for simplicity rather than like complexity?
I think so. Yeah.
I know it's probably
honestly,
been a while since you've kind of like gone through, because honestly, a lot of projects that you put a lot of passion and labor to, eventually, every once in a while, you kind of go like, "How did I do this again? How did I start this? Why am I doing this again?"
There are definitely a lot of things that if I was starting Vivid Stasis now, I would have done differently. I mean, I've said this a lot, like on various places, but if I started Vivid Stasis now, it would be a mobile game and not a PC game. Just because I feel like I have felt like I've sort of been limited with the fact that obviously I'm making this game for like PC and like computers. I have to account for one specific control type, which is the keyboard, obviously. Whereas I feel that limits the sort of like ways we can express gameplay as opposed to like being able to tap anywhere on screen. I feel like if I was to start Vivid Stasis now, it would probably be a mobile game and play something more similar to Twin of them.
Oh, it would be really. That would mean that the entire market you would be like competing with would have been completely different,
and a lot more stressful, probably, given like how much mobile rhythm games there are.
That too, but then also like, especially if you're gonna go less the VRRG, VSRG.
VSRG.
Sorry, why did I say VRRG?
VRG.
Virtual
reality rhythm game. I mean, I guess
stages, virtual stasis. Get ready for the VR port. It's literally it's literally just the game on a VR headset. There's no actual VR shenanigans. It's just the game.
Vivid Stasis already takes place inside a virtual reality. It's inside your computer.
This is true. But yeah, I mean, like, I feel like you've been doing, like, do you ever feel like there's pressure specifically to, like, I mean, like, you're doing this nonprofit, so there is no, like, real
Mhm.
competing
That's another
necessarily
thing I would
with
have
other
done
rhythm
different.
games.
That's another thing I would have done differently if I started it now. We're putting so much into this, and I can't like make a living off of it. And I'm like, why
I
did I make
mean,
it nonprofit?
you can still ask for donations, probably. Hey, you should probably do
Um, Probably yes, but also that would run the risk of like some of the licenses
that.
that we
Oh,
were able to
yeah,
get
yeah,
out
yeah.
of being nonprofit. Like as soon as you start making money from it, it's like okay, well then you got to start going into
Wow.
that whole messy ordeal.
12:47 a.m. I'm dumb. That duh. Of course, that messes with licenses. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um. Yeah, because then actually, yeah.
but also I don't. I mean, I would have done it differently, but I don't think I regret any of
Right,
the
right, right.
ways I chose to build it. Because obviously with it being nonprofit, we have a bigger like obviously it's easier for people to just kind of jump into it and play it. If
Mhm.
they like feel interested in it. It also means that like all of us on the development team are more doing this as a hobby, which means it's I guess less stressful overall.
Uh-huh.
Instead of making a commercial product. Um,
Well, they
and
say
also
a lot of the big
and
rhythm games started out as passion projects, so
mhm,
or at least
and
one
also
specific one that we all know of and we pretty much all play. But
mhm.
as far as I know, it started out as a passion project.
I
I don't
think
know.
it did. If you look at tweets from like the very beginning of that game's like Twitter account or like life cycle, it has a very different energy to the one it has now. I think that's
Like how
really
we're
funny.
saying it like it should not be named.
I,
Uh, I mean, to be fair,
I mean, I hope we're talking about Arcaea.
I think we're talking about
I
Arcaea.
think we're talking about Arcaea.
Yeah, but like as far as I know, Arcaea started like for example as a passion project, and then it eventually evolved into something that was for profit. Vivid Stasis doesn't really have that path per se because you already have a bunch of songs that are on sort of like this. As long as you don't ask people to pay for it, we'll definitely give the song over to you because it's technically
Yeah.
for free. But
Hmm.
that also um, brings up actually a very interesting question as like a free developer. I mean, have you found it harder to get songs or easier to get songs compared to like if it was for profit and you would have to like pay for licensing?
It's a very very fine balance of both. It
Mm.
is easier to get permission from artists to use their songs because obviously it's a nonprofit project. It's much easier. They don't like more artists would be okay with letting you use the song for free as opposed to paying like a big license fee for it. It's harder because uh this is like the one thing that's made like getting licenses difficult over Vivid Stasis. Most people will not respond if you DM them or like email them asking if you can use like a song of theirs for free. Most of the time, you will get it.
You will
And
get
I guess
what?
that
Sorry,
that
you
just
cut out.
you will get ignored. Like
Yeah,
that's just kind of how it is, and like that
I'm
makes sense. I don't like
from.
fault anyone for that, but like that is definitely the biggest roadblock of getting sort of the licenses. And I've definitely been very lucky with the songs I've been allowed to put in Pivot Stasis because it's definitely a lot of like picks I really want.
Uh-huh.
I'm really happy with the song list we've built so far, and also especially going into chapter like 1 and further story chapters where things are less BMS licenses and more like because a lot of we do on Hajimeli the Hajimeli Twitter we often like 2 times last year, well I guess this year still, but like over 2022 we did a form where people could like submit songs
Mhm.
that they either made for the game or made and want to like see if they can put in the game. And obviously we have to like pick a slim few out of what is still a mind-bogglingly large amount of submissions to me,
Yeah,
but uh that's definitely where the story content is definitely going to be more of those tracks. So you've got more unique tracks, maybe tracks from artists like that don't really have big names in the rhythm game community, or artists that you like more original stuff that people have made for the game just because they really like the game, want to make something for it. Like you'll see more of that kind of stuff in the main story, I think, because that's where the most of Vivid Stasis originality shines. And then we kind of have the other songs, the more like BMS lights. They're just like, hey, these
right.
are the popular songs. I wanted this because I thought it would be fun to play in this game. I hope you think it's going to be fun too.
Yeah. And going back, piggybacking off of the how hard it is to get artists to respond, especially for me, for example, I only like just recently got through my college graduation, so now I'm like kind of on my own, finding it like doing my job and then also doing my music making career on my own.
Mhm.
And I've only like halfway through, I think, through early 2022 was when I actually really started putting down the hammer, specifically of saying like I need to get paid or like you can't have me. And
Yeah.
to an extent it's I guess like I can speak for most artists, I think, by saying when we like ignore you for those offers, or any developer or any person asking to request to
Mhm.
use songs, one, sometimes at least 20% of the time it's because we are too busy or we just have
Mhm.
not read your stuff yet, or
Mhm.
other times it is like it's specifically because I don't think actually a lot of players actually don't really, I don't think, understand, at least for the developers or for the song artists, how kind of hard it is to get like to specifically go like I need a specific rhythm game song, but I need it by this time. Okay, well,
Mhm.
when's the time frame? When do you want the update out? How much are you going to pay? Because I know some
Mhm.
rhythm game artists, I'm not obviously going to give away people's rates, but like
Of course.
I know there's like a few rhythm game artists that are really expensive, specifically
Mhm.
for 2 minutes or 2 minute 30-second songs. Even if your project is a passion project, no mercy,
Mhm.
you still have to pay.
Of course.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, I know some
and
people like
it's
that
like
too.
it's just mostly because of like making a living. But I think also a lot of people don't realize that a lot of us artists, this is not necessarily our full-time job. There are very
Mhm.
few, there are like very few that have a full-time job. I think the people that are probably having a full-time job doing this specifically is probably Hardcore Tennessee, and then Camellia, and then like Sakujo, and then that's probably it. Like
Mhm.
that I can think of that would be able to just make rhythm game music and like live off of it. In fact,
Mhm.
actually, if I have to narrow, actually, if I'm thinking about it further, it's probably only Camellia and Hardcore Tennessee. Like,
Mhm.
but the point of that is like it's just difficult from like all sides because I would love to just provide music to people. Um,
Yeah.
but a lot of the times I actually only earlier this year got reached out by someone to make a song for a game. And I saw the video and I
Mhm.
saw that there's an actual project going on, but there's no real substance. And until I saw substance, I didn't really see fit to actually give them something
Start
for
like
basically like,
yeah.
for example, like I've had one project in the past where I paid like I got paid $50 for
Mm.
specifically for one track. Now I was okay with that deal because that track was like it was old, and to be honest,
Mm.
its time had been served, and like was it gonna go anywhere else? No. So I was like, yeah, I'm okay with like giving this one away for like that
Mhm.
low of a price, and I'm
Yeah.
comfortable giving away that price. I'm not gonna say what song it was, and I'm not gonna say what game it was, but
Mhm.
it's I gave it away for that because it was like you kind of just make judgments, but like a lot of artists have trouble giving stuff away for free because it is a lot of work. Doing a 2 minute 30-second song is actually much harder than you think it
Yeah.
is. And it's
No, I can
part of
back that up
also
from like the originals I've
yeah,
like messed around with for Vivid Stasis.
yeah. And then I'm also gonna say this one thing and then turn it back over to you. But it's
Mhm.
like for it's also another issue that we could talk about this almost for an entire other episode, but like the recent surge of tiebreakers as a result of stuff like parts, and then like the whole burst of people, everybody wanting a World Cup esque tiebreaker for now every round. Um,
Mm.
the very first, some of the very first OS tournaments having some of the new like tiebreaker song system. Um, just a bunch of like OS Taiko doing it. Osmania now is probably going to. I think Osmania has done it too. And then just regular OS tournaments. But like tiebreaker specifically, I think one of the debates among a lot of like artists, or at least that artists are kind of frustrated about, is that a lot of OS tournament organizers go to the people and go like, "Hey, can you make like a 5 minute 30-second plus
Yeah.
song for like either only $100 or $150, or God forbid, for free. And
Hmm.
I think that at that point, it really just kind of depends on the composer. Because at the end of the day, um, what you specifically decide to do, or even as a developer, like what you decide to develop or what you create for your product, you specifically attribute the value of your work to that. If giving it for free to give to the community is like what your value is to it, then I personally think that that's value well spent. But if
Hmm.
you want to make money on it, or if you want to give it for free, there's no shame in either action. Either way, you are not wasting your talents, because at the end of the day, you're putting effort into it. So at
Yes,
the end of the
I
day,
fully agree.
it's not that like, so at the end of the day, when, for example, Vivid Stasis asks for a song and then someone just either ignores because it's not free, because it's a free job that won't get
Hmm.
paid, or because they just haven't read it yet, or it's not that important because it's free work, it's not necessarily, I don't think that it's like this is a waste of time. I think I can speak for a lot of artists when it's more so that we're looking for paid opportunities because we need to sustain ourselves. It's not that it's necessarily a waste of time. We would love to give it for free,
Hmm.
but it's a hard industry that we live in right now. Or
Yeah,
at least not, it's not
I
really
fully get that.
hard. It is
I
actually a golden age of rhythm games, but like
Mhm.
it's
I mean,
just
it's the golden
difficult to
age
make
of
money.
rhythm games, but like golden age of rhythm games is still like relatively obscure genre, all things considered.
Relatively obscure genre, and then also a lot of us want to, for example, I know I I would be really curious to see how hard it is for developers to secure songs, especially when, for example, Arcaea 2022 happened, and when Paralist for Muse Dash is happening. Like a bunch of
Hmm.
these really big song contests. I'm actually really curious to see if there was like a statistics gathering, how that affected, for example, games like Vivid Stasis and a bunch of other games getting songs or getting time to get work from other artists to make songs for the game.
Hmm.
Because like for I like had to like kind of turn down like Paralist I couldn't do because I was exhausted after Arcaea. The
Hmm.
amount of work I did in the Arcaea 2022 competition is insane from my standards. I nearly ripped my hair out, but I digress. The point is like getting songs is hard. I
Hmm.
have
Yeah,
rambled a little bit,
that's good.
for let's move on to a little more kind of free topic. So what sort of rhythm games do you play, my friend? Like
All of them, everyone,
what
every
is
single
your
one.
so do you have a main, and a secondary? It's like Smash
I
mains
I'd say, I mean, if we're going main, it would probably be Arceus just from because that's the one I've put the most amount of time into.
at this point. Me too.
Um, at this point, yeah, it's been 2 years since I started playing Arcade, and I've definitely like put probably the most time into it that I have put into any video game ever. I don't have a way of like verifying that and like concretely tracking that, but like I wouldn't doubt that that's the case at this point.
Yeah,
Other
like
than that,
two or
though, my
three hours for me as
secondary,
well. Like, or like not 2 or 3 hours. Damn, if I was
mm,
2 or 3 hours and I
yeah.
was that high of a potential, man, oh my god. No, like 2 or 3 years. I think for me,
Hmm.
I think I came around
Um,
like when first pack I ever bought was like either Ambivalent Vision or Binary Enfold. And I remember starting around. Oh no, it's probably been like 4 years because it was freshman year.
mm,
Yeah, it's been about like
I
4. It's gonna come up on 5 years now. But I
I've
think I
known
was
about Arcade
around.
for a very long time because I had a friend who was really into it and like talked about it like for years before I really got into rhythm games. And so I've kind of known about it since it came out really, but I just by name alone, and I got into it in 2021 like January. And I was just like, okay, I mean, I have nothing to do on my break at work. Let's just
Yeah.
install this and play it for a bit, and then I started playing a lot.
Yep.
But I didn't really get like into rhythm games largely until 2020. My journey with rhythm games is really weird. I think the first like technically speaking, the first rhythm game I ever played would have been DDR, just when you had like one of those shitty like soft mats for the Wii back when I was a child.
Yeah. First ever experience
Um,
I had was like DDR. I mean, probably as like a kid when I was like 7 or 6, and it was at an ice center. It was like a very old DDR cab, like very
mm,
old. And it was like I don't know. It was like that probably might have been my first experience with it. My real first experience, like actually playing rhythm games and investing into it, was probably like Guitar Hero, and I think maybe actually it was probably Rock Band Beatles. I think was when I was like a super small kid, but like small child, but like yeah.
My journey with rhythm games is weird because it's pretty much the same like journey I had with RPGs, which is my other favorite like genre, like
Yeah.
JRPGs and stuff. Is that for a while I was always like, oh man, Rhythm Heaven, like really fun game. Like I don't like other rhythm games because they're so like boring and bland. There's nothing unique going on. You're just pressing keys as notes come out instead of like doing unique cues to the music. Man, every game should be like Rhythm Heaven. And then it was like start of the pandemic when I was just in a like voice call with some of my best friends and I was just randomly like, you guys think there's like a way to play like DDR charts on your keyboard? And then they're like, yeah, Stepmania's been around forever. So I played
That's
Stepmania
called
a
Step.
lot.
Yeah, the entire internet goes that Step Mania, idiot. Like
Yeah,
that's what
I
I would
played
have.
a lot of Stepmania in 2020. Like playing official DDR charts in Stepmania, like sim files,
Oh, okay.
and just kind of getting good at that. And
Damn, my journey was
uh,
skewed. Everyone started on like PC. Actually, your journey is not as unusual because that's I think when we did the interview with Billy Moto, that's how he started. Was like Stepmania and like
yeah.
it was like Stepmania and like on charts on keyboard. Oh my god, English.
Mm.
But like I my beginning was like MP4 file. Like I was on a YouTube to MP3 app. Found Storia by Sakuzio versus Sai on like
Mm.
Sidus One. Then found
Mhm.
Sidus One. Played Sidus One. Fast forward to like play Sidus Two eventually when it came out, and then like played other mobile rhythm games. Played Lenota. Lenota Arcaea collab. Played Arcaea.
Mm.
Found Friends. Cry.exe. Shout out to you. Then introducing me to arcade rhythm games. It's a blur from that point, and then here we are.
Mhm. Yeah, I tried to play. I think it was like 2019. It would have been that I because that same friend that really like really liked Arcaea and like
Yeah.
was the way I heard about Arcaea for a while. They were also really into Lenota, so I was like, oh hey, Lenota is like a Switch release. I'm gonna download that
Mhm.
and try that out.
As of this
Um,
recording, by the way, have you played the new Arcaea update?
I have. I played it right before coming on here. It's a
Me
weird 10.
too.
Capella's a weird 10.
Capella is a weird 10. I actually kind of like it though. I was kind of
I,
hoping
it's
for.
really interesting. It's really interesting. It
Hi, sorry for interrupting. This is Editor Michiko, and I'm going to be cutting off this Archaea tangent between Enemy and Cheryl because my goodness, the both of them talk about Archaea for like 20 minutes. Yes, Archaea is a great game, and there are a lot of things to talk about, but this podcast episode is about Vivid Stasis and video game development. Hopefully, this cuts section of the podcast will be available somewhere else in the near future. But for now, let's just continue on. I'll hand it over back to Enemy. Peace.
I was really kind of enthralled by a lot of the by the really like kind of interesting paranormal, a little off kiltered, somewhat unsettled story. Like it
mm.
feels like it's just a normal mystery story, but it feels like it's going to go in a direction that either will kind of keep you sort of like going into the text log and going like, wait, what? Like I feel like that's the story you're going for. Am I kind of correct?
So, how much do you know about like the sort of life cycle of the demo we've had going up? How things
I
have sort of progressed with
I'm
that?
I'm going to be totally honest with you, not much because
Okay,
it's been pretty busy for me at least for these
that's
past
fair.
like few
No,
months with
that's
student
valid.
teaching and everything. All right, go on ahead.
With 1.5.0, we released the Chapter Zero song pack, and it featured Doppelganger as a secret boss song. Uh, the method for unlocking Doppelganger involved like many steps, including looking for specific like codes on the itch.io download page, like scouring a completely separate Twitter account set up specifically for the unlock process, finding like unlisted videos on YouTube and comparing codes and like all of that, downloading files from a private GitHub repository and sending them into the game. Like Vivid Stasis is a very I don't like using the word meta. It's a very it's a story about the boundaries between dimensions. It
Mm.
interacts with the story interacts with our like plane of existence a lot, I would say. It as opposed to just a standard story where like you are like the player interacting with a piece of fiction. It's not so much that the game knows it's a video game, it's more that the game treats itself as if it's a different plane of existence that has established contact with our plane of existence. So there's a lot of things that the player is going to be like in charge of, because the sort of framing device, which I won't spoil because
Mhm.
I want to wait for players to find that out when chapter 1 comes out. The sort of framing device for it involves you like not so much interacting with the characters as the story unfolds, because the whole point of the story is that the story has already happened. You are observing a lower plane of existence that has already been discarded, um that has already like fate has already run its course.
Mm.
Like the characters have gone through their character arcs. They have attempted to overcome the challenge. They have failed, and that plane of existence is nothing but like digitalized like lines of code, lines of like dialogue, just mirroring back something that's already happened. And the only person who is able to change it is us, because we live on a higher plane of existence from the lower fictional plane of existence that the game takes place on. So we have the power to manipulate it. We have the power to see like outside of the boundaries that exist within that plane of existence,
I see.
and possibly find a better future for that plane of existence that doesn't involve everything just having to end the way it did.
Okay, and then we could stop it right there because I think that will be a good like bookend for people to like go play the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But for now, especially with like VSRGs specifically, what advantages do you think, or at least a lot of people are kind of transitioning over to like mobile rhythm gaming or are showing a bigger interest in arcade rhythm games. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
been a big push for that ever since Arcaea basically said let's bring the arcade rhythm gaming experience to mobile, and then people
Mm-hmm.
sort of with the Tunism collab and then the My collab and Sega kind of pushing out to mobile rhythm games.
Mm-hmm.
um I feel like PC rhythm gaming has still gone on strong. I mean, obviously OS is a big contender, but then also like
Mm-hmm.
what do you think VSRGs can still bring to the table at this point? Like, I think I know part of what your answer is, but I want to see how you arrive at that point. So,
So
what
if
do
you
you
mean
think?
VSRGs like strictly in terms of like PC rhythm games that are vertical scrolling that you control with your keyboard, like in that aspect?
Let's put it that way because I think that's the only real that's sort of the only real platform that I've seen VSRGs exist a lot on, or at
Mm-hmm.
least exist and thrive on.
Mm-hmm.
I think they exist on mobile, but they don't really. At least I haven't seen any. At least I'm not aware of any VSRG that specifically is thriving on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like 2DX, for example. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say the future I think the future lies in the community driven content. I think the future lies in stuff like Osmania or
Mhm.
Quaver. Like those kind of like titans of the general community has sort of grounded themselves so strong, that I feel like that's definitely where PC VSRGs are going to be. Like that's what they're going to be at. And it's definitely that in itself has sort of been a roadblock, not necessarily a roadblock, more so a point of contention with that we've run into with the way Vivid Stasis has been received so far, because while it has all as like people who've played the game really enjoyed it, we've definitely had a lot of comments being like, is there going to be a chart editor? Will there be custom charts? Like is there going to be modding support? And it's very interesting building a game that
Mhm.
isn't like centered around all that at all. Like I've gone on record multiple times and said Vivid Stasis will not have a custom chart editor. It won't have like community driven levels because it's a story based experience, so it kind of needs to exist as it is. Um,
Yeah, and I'm gonna be
uh,
honest. Like, there's a lot of when developing a rhythm game, or at least when a developing team like develops that sort of thing. I think it then you're opening yourself up to basically this entire world of like just putting it simply, like possible legal troubles, but then also,
Mm-hmm.
especially with people making unlicensed content. But then
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it muddies the water, at least in terms of like, here's what official content is, and then what other people will consider official content. Because at that point, you're
I
putting
agree.
fan charters against the official charters, and then comparing it to the official charters, the ones who are actually working towards the vision of the game,
Mm-hmm.
gets sort of it kind of gives the audience, this is a weird way to put it, it gives the audience more of a voice than they need to have.
I agree.
And it's like, and by that I mean like, because then they go like, well, we think the game should be like this way, and then they're, because it's their creation, they're going to have more love for the product that started that sort of fan creation in the first place,
Mhm.
because it's their product. And it's very hard for them to, and of course nobody wants to like make their own product and go like, well, this sucks in compared to the original product. No one's ever going to really like, no one's ever going to truly say that and believe it and then be content with themselves.
Yeah.
It's a very weird line to have open source rhythm games, or at least you have to like be, if it is going to be open source rhythm games, like for example, OS exists in that limbo because it's basically like it's built around that.
Mhm.
But something like Vivid Stasis, you're trying to basically make a quote unquote paid rhythm game content experience without necessarily having anybody have to pay anything, or for you having to go through a lot of the licensing troubles. But it's like, for example, it's a very fine line, might I add, that you've walked, where Random specifically is like a song that I don't think people would have expected to be in such a non-profit rhythm game, or at least in that regard. I think Both is a very different beast entirely, but it's,
I mean, it's getting added to a lot of rhythm games now. At the time we reached out to Silent Room and inquired about it. It had not been announced for any other rhythm games. It had not been announced for Mai. It hadn't been announced for Chun of them.
it probably got confirmed for them, but it wasn't announced yet because they
it
couldn't
wasn't
publicly
announced
announce
yet.
it.
Yeah,
But
at the time of us doing it, it hadn't been added to any other rhythm games yet. And it's the same story with I have no idea how I pronounce it. It's the song by AAAA. The one inspired by Sasakure, the Upside Down A.
Yeah, it's, yeah, it is a Sasuke. It is basically just a Sasuke Yuki song.
Yeah.
I
At the time, I don't. It hadn't been added to any other rhythm games. I think the only other rhythm game to this point that it's in, other than Vivid Stasis, is Kalpa. It's the only one I've seen it in, at least.
That's my Kalpa warm up shirt, to be honest. But like, to go back to it, I think that's the cool thing about Vivid Stasis, is that it has this equilibrium, I think, compared to a lot of other rhythm games, where it has actually a very valuable selection of songs that you are going to be able to play for free, basically, which I don't think many free rhythm games have that luxury, besides Pigeon Games, which has managed to walk that line as well phenomenally, might I add. As well as
is a gift.
And Figross is, yeah, crazy, because Figross runs off donations, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But like,
that makes sense.
And for example, and like compared to Vivid Stasis has no donations whatsoever. It is a fully community-led team, or at least not a community-led team. It's led by Cheryl. It's a Cheryl-led team.
Hobby stuff. Yeah.
But like, it's a team of community members specifically that are basically wanting to create a rhythm game. And I think it's also like an interesting, it just goes to show you that like all rhythm games don't necessarily need to be paid, or that the development teams don't need to be paid, and artists are more than willing to give very valuable songs. Random is very valuable to a rhythm game, specifically to make something cool. Like, that's the cool part. But we were kind of talking about open source. Open source charting is like I said, it's like that weird line you walk where it's like, do I let players have customizability, or do I limit customizability to where we can quality control only our charts and they just have to live with it? It's kind of,
I mean, weird. I'm gonna be honest, I only ever open up Quaver anymore to like set up a room with like one of my friends. I just like see what the like dumbest shit we can find on the community is. I have a Quaver map downloaded called The One Piece, which I cannot like play a preview of in the like game, because at the end of the chart there are so many notes the game will just legitimately crash trying to preview.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I think I love shit like that.
Oh, but an excellent point about this that I think I would make about open source specifically is, it's like, well, if you're going to close off open source, then the quality control from your own team has to be pretty phenomenal, or the charters have to be willing to improve to satisfy the players, because otherwise the players are not going to play, for example, shitty charts, because it's just not fun.
I have no idea why anyone like played Vivid Stasis in its like early days. Like the first few charts we made for it that we put out in like the very first version of the demo, they suck. They're bad.
But then again, you look at, for example, Arcaea's beginning charts, and Arcaea's beginning charts are a very early style, and some people would go like, man, these are kind of jank, but then some of them were introducing...
No, that's fair, yeah. I mean, Cherry is one of my favorite 10s in that game.
And I am actually going to go out on a record and say, like, I would love to my co-hosts and everything, I would love to do a prior episode or something with Rini digging into a very special, a special like video essay I think I need to do with Rini specifically is I want to talk to him about like the art of charting and the introducing of charting patterns over the course of a game's lifetime. And I think Arcaea has a really good prime example of this because the early charts...
Yeah, I would agree.
Because, for example, the early charts, especially the 9s and the 10s, are actually very simple. And some people would even probably call Sheraruth, maybe, I think some would be bold enough to call it a 9+, but, like, there would be an argument there because it's such an early charting style. But even then, in between major updates, a lot of patterns are introduced. But like I could go on.
I mean, even now, like the
patterns are introduced to
and onwards, like charting style is like I feel it's even different from like the 3.x charting style.
Like, well, my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory really is that 4.0's charting style was you were being prepared for that early on. There were patterns snuck into prior charts and different movements specifically that your hands or fingers would make that we were building up to use in 4.0. Because if you just threw the 4.0 charts at you, like you threw Final Verdict at the audience, everyone's just going to go, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I mean, they did anyway, but...
Sort of, but like you were built up for it in the lead up between like, I would probably say like 3.5 up to 4.0. But the whole point was like, for open source, if you're going to close off open source, then the charters have to be willing specifically to get better. And that's why I think Arcaea specifically, obviously they're not going to do custom charting because it's their game. And they have decided that like they would rather avoid that hassle altogether. But they can back it up because Toaster, Nitro, Assuasion, Sering, Taranuk, Kurorak, Antimus, and
whoever EN is.
EN. I think it's N. EN, and whoever EN is. They don't have any social media. I've actually tried to like find them. Or if it's I have no idea if it's an alias or it's actually a separate person.
But I mean, didn't Toaster say it was an alias?
I don't remember.
I think it's like a little like footnote on the Arcaea wiki, like under the chart design credits that says like links to a Discord screenshot of Toaster saying that EN is not like an alias for any other charter.
Okay, I don't know. Anyway, the point is like all of those charters specifically are what we would probably now call professional charters. They specifically know what they're doing. And also, might I mention that Ecology from, I think I've talked about this before with like some other friends, Ecology did the chart for Heart in the Ongeki Part 2 collab. Ecology is actually a Sega charter. They do stuff for Chunithm. They actually did Absolute Rightness, which is one of my favorite Chunithm charts ever. And like, it's basically like they have reached this professional charting status to the point where Arcaea doesn't need open source. Arcaea never needed open source because the charters are just so good and they improve each time. Say and him haw and complain all you want about the Arcaea charts, but the Arcaea charting quality is probably the best you're ever going to get. And that's why open source isn't necessarily needed because the audience is satisfied, deep breath, by the charting quality that they give on a whole extent. You've then got sometimes the Arcaea fan charting community, which is an entire section that kind of just like butts heads with Arcaea. But for good reason, for a lot of good reasons.
I think there's a lot of interesting. There's some interesting fanmates. I watched the Arcaea stream that was like a few months ago, and it was really interesting to see.
And I think, well, like for example, with open sources, it's the same thing with Rotano. Rotano's chart quality has gotten, even its early chart quality is phenomenal. Paradigm Reboot, an amazing game that has stormed onto the scene randomly.
Dude, the Paradigm reboot is so good. It is like it's such a like amazing
we
like release. Like
the
for it to just
chart
like come out like this, it's just like damn. Like they were cooking that for a while,
yeah. So the point
and it
is like, but
shows.
like these games don't have open source because their chart quality is good and they can satisfy it. With
Mhm.
OS, they want to be built around the community, so they do that sort of stuff. Um, One game that I think like a lot of now it has like just a lot of like these fan charting, or that I think needs to probably go open source, or at least I feel like it would be more fun if it was open source. Is like
Mhm.
dynamics
Mm,
a little bit, but that's just
maybe
me.
Citus. Cytoid
Here's
has
the
some really cool charting.
here's the like interesting thing about like Citus is that I I feel like the development team for Citus actually does like fan made charts. And my reasoning for that specifically is that I feel like Citus, I don't know, I feel like Rayark doesn't have anything to fear. They just don't want licensed songs. And I
Mm.
think to an extent, Arcaea wants Arcthesia to like follow a specific guideline set of guidelines. And then Arcthesia doesn't follow a specific set of guidelines, and then Arcaea gets pissed at them, and then Arcthesia wonders why they're mad. It's like
Mm.
it's sort of around that, but I guess we're kind of getting off topic with open source. The point is with
Mhm.
open source, it with Vivid Stasis, it's a weird area because if you do go open source, you risk basically the community saying that the chart you basically open a can of worms of our charting is better than the official teams,
Mhm.
and also you risk muddying the waters of what is official content and what is fan content. The same
Yeah,
can be
and
said also
the
for
legal stuff that comes
yeah,
with
and the legal stuff
that.
that comes with that. And I think it's the same thing for Arcaea. Like if Arcaea opened to open source, they have to deal with the legal troubles of mud of like basically clouding everyone's vision to what is official content and what is not official content.
Mhm.
And um they obviously have foregone that, and it has been to their benefit and to their success because, to be honest, there is no question what is official content, what is fan made content. But
Mhm.
also, while there is like contention of like, oh, this chart sucks or whatever, like every fucking update,
Mhm.
God,
I mean like
if I had a dime for every time I heard an Arcaea player complain about an Arcaea chart, I would probably have like maybe 35 dimes, but it's weird that I would have that much. Um,
I would have way more than that. I've seen it so many times.
I don't know. I wouldn't have $1 million, but I'd have a good chunk of money. I could buy like a few lunches. um,
Good fun, vivid stasis.
yes, I could fund Vivid Stasis. I could give more money to Vivid Stasis than anyone ever could. The point is like open source sometimes, while people think it would benefit a game, I feel like it sometimes does. I think it depends on the game, but most of the time it does more harm than good. Unless the game is
Mhm.
specifically built around that. And even OS has copyright issues with open source gaming.
Mhm.
So, or at least people say they have open source issues, and OS kind of just doesn't care. But
Sweeps it under the rug a little bit.
I'll speak under my breath a little bit. But I give the OS community a bad rap. I have tried Osmania. I have found a good part of the community that I liked. I jumped back into it specifically because I was like, I'm going to give it another shot. And there are good parts of that community, but it's just a lot
Mhm.
of the filth bubbles up to the surface, and that goes for every community. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I guess this point went off for a little bit, but like yeah, open source. Have you kind of accepted that like actually that's an interesting like have you kind of accepted that like if Vivid Stasis gets more and more popular, have you accepted that like fan charting is going to become a thing whether you like it or not? Because let's be real, I think it's going to happen with
Yeah,
any rhythm game.
I've given some thought to it, and I think
People are
I would
probably going to mod your
definitely,
game. Like
yeah, I mean that goes without saying. And I have an interesting stance on all that because I'm not entirely against modding just like as a concept. Obviously, I play a lot of games that like have modding support and that I use modding support on. I mean like before this I was trying to see how easy it would be to make a mod for Ultra Kill.
mm,
But like I
as I
do
saw
believe in
you
the
on the Ultra
power.
before this meeting, seeing you on the ultra kill menu for 10 hours.
I left it on when I passed out, and I woke up and I'm like, oh hey.
It's funny.
But I think I'm not like one of those purists that's like modding games should be like outlawed. In fact, I would say I'm more on the side of supporting modding in like overall the gaming community than I'm against it. But
Interesting.
with Vivid Stasis specifically, I think it
If I have to put my small opinion about that out, like on my side, modding, like I think modding is good for the community growth, but it's kind of necessary. It's like junk food. It's tasty, it's sweet, it enriches the experience, but at the same time, it is unhealthy. And like in indulgence and in a lot of it, it can be pretty bad. I think
that's interesting.
I think for me, it's like it is common. It's going to happen. Like you can't keep a kid away from candy, you know?
Yeah.
That like they're going to have candy one way or another. A friend will give it to them. Something will happen. You can't prevent the community from modding or fancharting or doing anything like that. And I'm pretty sure even big developers like Rayark, Noxy Games, Bamani, Sega, Lowiro, they all understand that. But at the same time, it can't just run rampant. You can't let a kid just feed on junk food and stay that way. I think they understand why it happens and why we do it. But at the same time, not just for legal reasons, but also for integrity reasons, it needs to be controlled either or it needs to stop, wink wink, for some people. But like
I think when it was specifically Vivid Stasis, the sort of point I've come to is,
and Vivid Stasis is in this weird area where it's
this
like
weird
it's free,
middle
so like,
ground,
well, it's
yeah.
like it's weird because it's like I think players are gonna go, well, it's free and it's not going for profit, so there should be no problem, right?
We definitely have, like, especially with 2.0 upcoming, there's definitely code in place to make not so much modding harder, but cheating harder. There's code in place to make like cheating a high player rating like harder than otherwise would be. Not impossible by any means, but harder than it otherwise would be, because the game, if like does a check at the start if it's connected to the internet, and if it does, it syncs up all of the difficulties and all of the like song information like with the cloud.
Funny enough, I don't think, at least in the mobile rhythm game, because I know Arcaea one time got hacked, or at least one time you were able to like get like a crazy high rating. I don't really think mobile rhythm games have a problem with like cheating. If anything, of course, let's be real, I know that there are cracked versions of specific rhythm games out there.
Obviously.
Like I don't see someone like all of a sudden jumping in with a 13.99 rating in Arcaea and then sucking ass at a 9+. Like I don't see that. Like or with, you don't necessarily, I know that like there was like leaderboard glitches that you could pull off in like Citus 2, but like no one really cared because there was no built-in leaderboard, or at least I didn't really care because it wasn't really meant to be a leaderboard thing. When it's Arcaea, the leaderboard makes sense. I know Arcaea one time had it, but like it was like once. I feel like the rhythm game community is relatively good about that. Like, I don't know. That's interesting though. Like or it's just you don't hear about it or see it very often, or maybe I just don't pay attention.
It's like I accept that at some point, if Vivid Stasis gets popular enough, there's probably going to be people that like make fan charts for it, and to a degree, I might even be interested in like seeing some of those, because I would definitely be interested to see how people could chart, like how other people could chart in the like limitations and systems of Vivid Stasis gameplay. I would definitely be interested to see that.
To piggyback
however,
off that, I'm pretty sure Taro Nuke has also like looked at Arcaea fan charts. Same thing with like Kurorek.
Oh,
I
no,
think I've seen them in comment sections for like certain fan charts.
No, he was at the stream for the Arcaea, not Arcaea like category.
Is it Taro Nuke or Kurorek?
Taro.
Wow. I should be calling him Taro. My bad.
Yeah, I talked to Taro a lot. He's a good friend of mine, and he's multiple times expressed like, dude, I'm not part of the team anymore. It doesn't really matter what I do.
I mean, like, yeah. I also like. I mean, I kind of like nudged Taro on Twitter just because like I think Taro's cool.
Taro's awesome.
Hey Taro, let's talk. I love you.
But like
I, it's
when it comes down to like modding stuff for specifically Vivid Stasis, I think the only requests I would have, like, I would probably like if I saw someone that was like kickstarting a modding scene for Vivid Stasis, because there's no one right now. But if like I saw that there was like one that was setting up, I'd probably like get in contact with the people, like modding, like starting that modding community. I wouldn't like shut them down or anything. I'd just be like, hey, like I get this. Like that I see what you're doing, like, and I get why you're doing it. Like this is kind of inevitable. I'm not gonna like file a cease and desist or anything. I don't have the legal team to do that. But like my only request is like any modded content or whatever, it is made very clear that it's modded content.
Yeah.
And like B, that like it doesn't become a thing to where the modded content is enough that it detracts people towards it instead of the actual like main overarching story and game we're trying to tell and create.
mhm.
Like, as long as those two conditions are met, like, obviously in the Vivid Stasis Discord, we have a rule that says, like, no fan-made, like, charting discussion, obviously, but that's just because it's the Discord, and I want people to actually be focused on the like, game that is the Discord is for, that we're creating. Outside of, like, that and those two, like, things, requests I would make, like, I'm not going to do anything to try and stop people, like, modding. The only thing I would try to stop people from doing is cheating stuff, like cheating player rating, like cheating at the achievements on Steam or the leaderboards on Steam, which is a thing we're doing. I guess I am announcing that now. Because Steam leaderboards are insanely easy to cheat. So we're definitely like putting at least some stuff in place with 2.0 that should make it harder for people to gain unfair advantages. However, if people want to like when it comes to people like modding and like hacking the game and specifically to like express their own creativity with like what the game can do and other songs that we may never see like the light of day actually being in the game, like while I wouldn't like it to become a huge thing, like big, just as popular as the game itself, like I'm not gonna go after people that do that, man. They're just trying to like express themselves. I make fan made charts for like Stepmania. I messed around with Cytoid charting last night because I was bored.
Yeah, I think
Like
yeah, and
I'm
you
not
made
gonna go
cock and
against
balls
that.
on Twitter.
I made a cock and ball in fucking Cytoid, dude. I'm not
Oh
gonna
my
go after you for doing that shit.
Anyway, moving on. The point is like I think my thing is like I think like I said, I think it's like junk food. I think it's like safe to indulge in, but at the same time I don't think it necessarily needs to be rampant. And
I agree.
I think with modded content I think there are certain games that put a bit too much of a chokehold on it and don't let the community necessarily express themselves with it, or the guidelines are not clearly laid out. However, while some people think there's a chokehold on this community, I think the people who are watching / listening know exactly what community I'm talking about. The people that think there is a chokehold on it probably don't really know that the guidelines are clearly laid out, and we know exactly what the said gaming company does not like about fan charting in that area. And it is specifically the use of already used company assets. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
just make different assets. I don't care if it looks ugly. That being said, it's not really going to stop people. And at least for the creative content, I think both parties have kind of accepted that they're going to exist and they're both going to hate each other. But I think that's an example of kind of like, I don't like that sort of bad blood being brewed between the community and the developers. I think it sucks. But the only problem is I think it is kind of inevitable that it was going to get there. But
I mean, what it comes down to is just like I don't want people to pass like their own creations using our work off as the work itself. I don't like that.
Right.
That
And
is
I
where I
don't-
draw the line.
and in all honesty,
If someone
from an
does that, like that's where I'm gonna go and be like, hey, can you like change this, make it clear it's modded, and then if they If
From
they
a-
like say no, that's when I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to have to
from a
ask you to, like, take it
from
down.
a creator's perspective, at least from someone looking in at the time of this recording, December 22nd, 1:57 a.m. Holy fuck. Um, I don't think you're really going to have that problem.
I don't think so either.
Mostly because most of you're still going to have devout fans. It's not like everyone's going to be making fan made content, and like people are, it's pretty hard to pass off, like it's pretty, for example, the story writing that you give specifically is you specifically, and
Mhm.
the creativity, everyone can imitate something, but imitation is the highest form of flattery, but it is not a substitute.
Mhm.
It's really hard specifically to pass it off as your own. Some people can imitate your writing style, but no one will ever perfect it because it's
Mhm.
your writing style at the end of the day. And it's the same thing with
Well,
like
it's mine
me.
and the co-writers.
Right. But you get the point. Like
Yeah.
it's your team's culmination. No one is ever going to have that combination of thoughts and brains because that's what you made. Like there's nothing that really, like, sure, but it will always be kind of, there will always be a distinction between like the original content and the fan made content. And I think naturally the community will curate that as well. For
Mhm.
example, I could make a song that's based entirely off of Anu, like, which would be cool, but it's never going to sound like Anu because I don't have Sasakura UK's presets. I don't know how he made
Mhm.
it. That sort of thing. It's
Mhm.
just, it's basically like, I think it naturally curates itself.
Mhm.
It's like we probably got a lot of footage.
Mhm.
Oh god, Michiko's gonna kill me. Oh,
Yeah, I just refreshed my YouTube homepage and I saw that Michi uploaded a video an hour ago saying unexpectedly early Christmas break, and I'm like, I'm sorry, dude.
I mean, actually, we talked about this, so I think he'll be fine. But like he said he was gonna be able to like edit. He just wasn't gonna be able
Okay,
to record. So,
that's fair.
but we, but yeah. So
Oh,
the
dude,
audience.
on the topic of that, just real quick.
Mhm.
It's been like a running joke. Well, I say joke as in like that makes it seem like it's not. It's been like a running like point of discussion, like a point of like lighthearted discussion in amongst the Vivid Stasis like development team. That Michi's videos on the game, doing like site reads of the charts, are like what give us like the biggest like bursts of inspiration. Like every time he uploads, like fuck yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of work done on Vivid Stasis tonight.
That's funny.
Video games.
Michiko, you could put a note that we talked about a lot of stuff prior and we totally forgot about what we were talking about.
Okay, I'm glad that wasn't just me.
That's so funny. Um, yeah, so at the end, I guess we're pretty much almost out of time. I think we've got
Mhm.
probably a lot of good footage to work with, but
Mhm.
um Vivid Stasis specifically, for those who are watching at the time of this recording, we are going to also be planning a little special sneak
Surprise.
peek. Yeah, a little sneak peek at some future content that Cheryl is working on. We're going to have that episode planned shortly, and this time, hopefully, with a much faster turnaround. Um,
Mhm.
Also, hoping to get my co host back on here, but we're pretty much all on holiday break. I am pretty much done with my stuff, so we're kind of back on schedule, hopefully.
Mm.
We're just
Yeah,
trying to get.
I'm like super busy up until like mid-January because I have obviously Christmas stuff coming up, and then I have a vacation on the last week of December, and it's New Year's for a bit, and then I'm going to MagFest. It's like a whole big thing.
Everyone is busy. The Vivid Stasis development team is busy. We are busy.
Okay,
So
yeah, like low key, we're behind. We're a little bit behind right now because like half of the charters on the Vivid Stasis development team have been working on stuff for the not ITG site read tournament.
that's
So like
funny.
everyone's busy with that, and we're like,
That's
I
funny.
still need a couple finale charts done, and like all of these charts don't have openings and middles yet. So
That's funny. So
but
yeah.
we're getting there.
So yeah, we'll definitely be having an episode where we're gonna have a new type of corner cap episode probably where we are going to be playing we're gonna be playing Vivid Stasis 2.0 possibly.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to do it because I think there will be a lot of cool stuff in there that I'm kind of anxious to see. Um
Yeah.
but yeah. Well, Cheryl, it was wonderful to have you on.
Yeah, this was a blast.
We also have a bunch of like extra content probably. Um, we are definitely going. I feel bad for Michiko now. Oops. But yeah, for all of you that are watching, we're back and we are going to hopefully get our shit together. Anyway, thank you, Cheryl, so much for coming on. Is there any other final words or like social media that anyone can follow you on? Anything that you want to promote really fast?
I mean, I am Koniyagami everywhere, which is kind of weirdly spelled, so I guess put it up on screen maybe if possible.
Slap.
Michi.
It's right there.
Get the 3D text back. Get like all the effects back. Other than that, yeah, I'm incredibly grateful that like Vivid Stasis has garnered any kind of an audience whatsoever, because I've never had a project of mine like, I mean, it hasn't really taken off. It's not like uber mega popular, but like it's the most any project.
No, but it really is inspiring to see how it has garnered its own audience, especially being non-profit as it is. It's amazing to see how far this game has come as a non-profit. So truly, kudos to you and the Hajimeli team. I
am really excited to do some collabs after 2.0 is out, because we have a few like possible ones in the works that I'm excited about.
So with that, I think we are officially going to say pretty much goodbye, and
adios.
We will see you all in the next episode. Update here coming soon. Talk to you all soon. Thanks, peace. Enemy out. Bye.
Cheryl in.
That was a lot of buys. All right, bye.